el pasaporte de Denman Luke Alexander, nacido el 22 de enero del año 1986 en Texas. Aquí está el pasaporte. Aquí están sus tarjetas, driver license, veterano de guerra. Aquí está su carnet.
There were multiple incursions or attempted incursions into Venezuela over the last week. Over the weekend, a boat full of mercenaries, thick-necked mercenaries, were effectively captured, speedboat, captured by the Venezuelan government, the police forces, and their armed forces. And these forces were either captured or killed. However, there were 2 Americans that were captured. Now, Silvercorp, a corporation, and the guy, I think the guy named is Gadria, came out and said, yes, these guys were mercenaries, Green Beret, special forces, and they were captured and paraded out by President of Venezuela, Nicholas Maduro. Now, the question becomes, who did these guys come from? Yes, they were American, but were they really connected to America? Were they connected to Juan Guaido and the opposition party? Where did these guys come from? Who were these mercenaries? These guys were supposedly going to invade the country, take down military bases, cause terrorism, kill political leaders, cause havoc, topple the government. Now, the other people who were that other Green Beret guy was trying to do the same thing. Capture bases, destroy, kill people, create chaos and havoc, and topple the government. Now, understand what would have happened, though. Think for the moment what took place in the Middle East. And this is not pro-Maduro, pro-anybody. I'm talking just geopolitical politics. Think what happened in the Middle East. Obama puts a bunch of money into thick necks to go into Libya. The moment that the Gaddafi government starts attacking the roughnecks and whatnot that are being paid for in some respects to create chaos and havoc in that country, the United States says, oh my God, Gaddafi is going to massacre the people in that country. And the U.S. press says, oh my God, Gaddafi is going to murder the people in the country. We need to do airstrikes, humanitarian airstrikes. Because when we drop our bombs, they turn to flowers when they hit, the innocent people, but they turn to bombs when they hit the real people. That's not how bombs work. They kill all of the people who are under them. They're selling slaves now in Libya. So I ask you whether that action was a good outcome based on their actions, whatever their intentions were. Was that outcome good based on their actions? Okay, so when we go into Syria and Obama does the same thing, well, you have all of these terrorists coming into Syria from these different areas. We spend billions of dollars in Syria giving guns, weapons, and resources to the terrorists in that particular country to take down Assad. 500,000 Syrians die in that process. Now, was that a good use of our American forces? He's still there. Assad is still there. Was that a good use of our energies, our time, our money to do that? 500,000 people died in that conflict. Not to mention Libya, where again, you can buy a black slave. This is what we've been doing around the world. Now, we say, after spending billions of dollars on weapons and terrorists and whatnot to invade that particular country, we say it's a civil war. And because it's a civil war, we can help one of those sides. We can help the moderates, the moderate terrorists, the freedom-seeking terrorists. And we can bomb on their behalf because at that point, it's a civil war. Now, that's what the media will print, and that's what the media would say. And it would say it for years. And then maybe after Obama's out of office, they would say, hey, we were supporting terrorists. Missing the fact that Gabbard has said it years before and was taking these guys to task in Congress over that point. Now, let's look back at Venezuela. A boat full of guys going into the country trying to create havoc and chaos. And immediately, what would have happened? Then the media would have said, there's a civil war. And we, Colombia, and some of the allies in this region would then may be able to invade on the side of one of those parties of that civil war. Because at that point, there's the freedom-seeking Venezuelans and there's the Maduro government Venezuelans. It's the same playbook. I guess that's my point. Whether it's taking place in South America, whether it's taking place across the world, whether it's taking place in Ukraine, whatever. Think for the moment, if you had all of those protests the moment that Donald Trump got elected and Nancy Pelosi stands up and says, this election is illegitimate because all those people are out there protesting. Nobody would ever even think to do that. And yet, when we look at other countries, we act as if those countries aren't real, that the governments of those countries aren't real, just because we don't like those particular governments. The notion that Donald Trump can declare the president of Venezuela to be anybody is astonishing to me, in the way that Venezuela can't declare the president of the United States. Both are countries. Both are legal fictions of sorts. I guess I'm making the point that it is not our responsibility to attack another country, especially, and even if it wasn't the case, where we can't even supply the medical equipment necessary to the people of this country, where we can't even supply the resources to keep the people of this country in their homes, and where right now Donald Trump is disbanding the task force for the coronavirus because he wants to get people back to work when the United States has over, 1 million cases and over 70,000 deaths. And because of Trump's new policy, phase 2, get these people back to work, the numbers have been revised up to basically double. Donald Trump accepts this number and basically say, look, people are warriors. They got to die to get back to work. That's where we are. And so the government that doesn't care about the people of this country clearly doesn't give a shit about anyone else around the world either. And when you're looking at geopolitics, don't look at geopolitics as if there are people in those countries, because that's not the way our government looks at those things. It looks at those things as, what do we need to get and what leverage do we have to apply? And usually that leverage is, how do we make their civilization and their society hurt to the point where the society itself will start to impose its will on the government of that society to take some action, one or the other. It misses the point that oftentimes that hardens that society to that particular government that our government hates, because that society understands that the pressure is being applied from somewhere else and their lives are being miserable, being made from somewhere else. Whether or not it's true that the internal government is making their lives that much more miserable is almost secondary to the fact that someone else is trying to invade. I guess I'm saying, look, stop fucking around with Venezuela. Leave Venezuela to its own devices. We don't need to be investing money and resources into doing something like this. Now, whether or not we were absolutely responsible for this, I can't say. Wouldn't be shocked. Donald Trump comes out and disavows all knowledge. We disavow all knowledge, just like, Mission Impossible. If you get caught, we will pretend that you just did not exist. Let's hear Trump.
I just got information. Nothing to do with our government, but I just got information on that. So we'll find out. We just heard about it. But whatever it is, we'll let you know. But it has nothing to do with our government.
Nothing to do with us. We don't know anything about that at all. But they were 2 Americans. I get that. And they had U.S. passports. That guy had a license from Texas. Yeah, I know, but they were just doing it on their own. They were just fucking around out there. They thought they could change the world by themselves with other thick-necked brutes from Venezuela. I think it was like 7 guys from Venezuela. And apparently 2 Americans in a boat. I suppose those 6 or 7 guys from Venezuela, they would have came out and said, these guys were starting a civil war. Because, 6 guys from Venezuela. I'll leave this here. I don't want to be long. But I don't know. I mean, it's like, for fuck's sake, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? And look, whatever you think of Maduro, you have to commend him for being able to stay in power with a superpower basically at your doorstep, trying everything in their power to take you out of power. And he has been able to maintain his political dominance through all of that political pressure. Shocking. But it also gets across, they don't want you to fuck around with their country. And I agree with them. Leave them to their devices. Like, share, subscribe.